Okie doke. Welcome, everybody. It's 11 o'clock in the morning in the beautiful Villages, Florida. This is level three. Level three means we start to use our instrument to make easy arrangements. So we're either going to do things like push a duet. The first thing I always tell you to make an arrangement is start from the left and go to the right. Always, always pick your rhythm first. That's the most important thing you can do. Then your presets make it awful easy. Rhythm presets usually a good place to start unless I tell you another suggestion. And then you want to do things like add some tabs, add a duet, add some golden harp, which you can't see with this guy because I'm using him as my coda. So I do have two sheets for you today. We're doing the song Sailing, which is a 5-page song. Yeah. So if you wish, if you really love the song, you might want to print out all of them and do 3 pages and 2 pages, and that way you can kind of just push them back and forth. Or I just did that first page, taped it, and then I'll be having to flip a page. So the very first thing we actually should do with this song is do the road map. Let's find out about the song first. All right, this was 1979. This is actually considered soft rock, written and recorded by Christopher Cross, and it was released as the second single from his debut album. The first one, his first single, was Ride Like the Wind. Some of you probably remember that on the radio. VH1 named Sailing the most sensational soft rock song of all time. Later, the classification became yacht rock, like yacht, like big ships. So what actually is yacht rock? I had to look that up because I had never really heard that before. Yacht rock is considered West Coast sound or adult-oriented rock. Really? Huh. Yeah. So that still doesn't tell me much. But if you look up yacht rock, they'll give you a whole list of songs that go along with yacht rock. This is just a really beautiful, easy listening song. And it was actually written by Christopher Cross as a filler for the album. And he wrote it because he remembered going out on a sailboat with his friend to kind of forget about life and the stress of life. And so the whole thing was kind of written with that in mind as a stress reliever for him. That's why he wrote it. And when he put it on the album, it became the second single, believe it or not. So yeah, it feels like when you play it, it should feel like you're on a sailboat. If you've never had that sensation, everybody should try that at one time. Now, I'm a seasick person. I get very seasick if I'm going up and down too much. But I did have some experiences, Madison, Wisconsin, where our college, our little university there is on a couple of lakes. And there were some little tiny sailboats, like 2-man sailboats, that everybody could take out and rent and take them out on the lake. And we would it's just a wonderful way. It does. It relieves the stress. Just lay back in the sun, on the water, no big waves, just sailing along. That's what this song reminds me of. So you want to pick a rhythm that's absolutely going to make you feel like that. So what rhythms would work? Well, anything that's going to be like this. Soft and easy. Soft and easy. Your smooth rhythms are going to be good. I actually am using basic soft and easy at 120. All right, so it's going to sound a little bit like this in the background. Seems like it's a little fast, but it's not, because it's just think of those little tiny waves just rippling in the lake. You may want to experiment with doing it at 60 and playing it at 120 if that makes you feel better. But I chose to do it, usually soft and easy comes up about 64. So I'm actually doubling that speed to get that little ripple. And then I will be adding a golden harp in the middle of it as well to give it even more. It's like, whoop, wind picked up a little bit. Give it even a little bit more of a ripple. I am adding an interlude, which is completely optional, and a coda. So let's start with your colors, and let's do the roadmap. All of page 1, all of page 2, all of page 3, all of page 4, and when you get to the end of line 2 on page 161, not the end of line 3, the end of line 2, you're going to make a color, and you're going to write interlude to interlude, because that's where you're going to go to the interlude. That's where you insert that. Now the last 3 lines on the page, cross them out. Cross them out. Look at all the rests. We're crossing them out. We're not using them. Why? Because we're doing the interlude, and then I'm going to give you a choice. It says go back to the silly sign. You can either go back to the silly sign and use the pickup notes to the silly sign. Where's the silly sign? Page 2, page 158, second line. And you could use the pickup notes that are there. I actually did the pickup notes from the beginning of the song and went back to the beginning of the song. So your new silly sign, if you wanted to put a new silly sign, would be right at the C chord, right after those pickup notes. So I'm going to give you the choice. It depends on how much you love the song. On page 1, correct. I think when I play it through, I'm going to keep it a little shorter, and I'll use the silly sign on page 2. So you have the choice. You can go back to either place, and it's going to sound fine. Now, when it says to coda, where's the to coda? Because that's where we're going to play to. Page 3 or 159, it says to coda at the bottom of the page. Guess what? You don't have to turn the page anymore. You just have to have your coda page either taped someplace or, have your neighbor kid hold it up so you can read it, or wherever you want to put it. I'm just standing it up right here. We're not going to do rests for the coda. I wrote out an ending. And you can play it as is, or you can do repeat and fade. So however you want to do that for your coda. Questions about the roadmap? It's a very repetitive song, but it's supposed to be. It's supposed to make you feel like you're just out on a sailboat and you're just laying there watching the birds and the waves, and you maybe have a fishing pole out there, who knows. I'm not using a specific intro because at 120, soft and easy intros sound pretty yuck. So I'm just going to do a C chord for an intro with I'm not using intro 1 or 2. Now again, depending on which rhythm you use, it might work. So your first job is to find something over here that's going to work. But I think that basic soft and easy just works really well. All right, I'm going to play it, and you can watch how many times my hand moves for chords. It's pretty much once a measure. I'm going to change the chord every measure, but it's going to be very small changes. So here we go. So, did you like it or didn't care for it?
I thought it was great.
Okay. Well, I get.
Like the original one did.
Pardon?
Sounds just like the original when they were
Oh,
doing it.
well, thank you. Well, that's where the interlude is pretty much like the original, and so is the coda. So that's why I felt this is actually not a bad arrangement here. It's not, but we got to add a couple more chords just to make it do something a little different every measure. But they're all subtle chords. So get your pencils out. Remember, these are all optional. They're all optional, but let's give it a try. The C chord is good for one measure. Measure 2 over Paradise. Put a C, add 9. C chicken, add ADD, like addition, 9. It's a 3-fingered chord. It's going to be super easy. Okay, let's turn this off and just put on chords. It is C, D, E, those 3 notes in a row. Chickens, dinosaurs, and elephants. So you're going to play a C, then you're going to play a C add 9. See how subtle that is? Then the third measure, over the word least, now go back to a plain old C. Then the second line, first measure, do a C add 9. So you're just toggling back and forth between 1 note, 3 notes. 1 note, 3 notes, and it's just going to give a little bit of a flowing movement to your song. Okay, the E minor. It can be an E minor 7, or if you really want to make it a little bit more challenging, make it an E minor 9. It's a 4-fingered chord. It's not hard. It is D dinosaur, E elephant, F sharp, sharp fish, G. So it's an E minor 9 for one measure. The next measure over the A for sail, put an E minor 7, which is you have to take off the F sharp, but you can't just lift your finger. You have to release the entire chord and play it again. So the E minor 9 goes to the E minor 7. Next line, third line, over the A for find, E minor 9. And the measure with the half rest, measure 2, E minor 7. So you're just toggling back and forth from the E minor 9 to the E minor 7. It's just a 1-finger change. So it's easy. You just have to remember where to put your fingers. Then the D and the G, no changes for a long time. D, G, D, G. Turn the page. Whole first line is D, G, D, G. That's easy enough. That's exactly as written. Okay, as we go through, I'm going to start adding changes. Right there, line 1 of page 158, last measure. You're going to put add duet. Add duet. That's just a 1-button push. Everybody can do that. So your second verse has a duet going on. Not yet. No golden harp yet. Second line. You've got a C for one measure. Second measure over the A for Neverland. C add 9. C. Yep, chicken add 9. C, D, E, just like we did before. Third measure over the A for reason, go back to a plain old C. Third line, first measure over the rest, C add 9. So you're just toggling back and forth between C, C add 9, C, C add 9. Stacy, I know you're playing full-fingered chords. You're just going to add the D. Okay. Third line, second measure, the E minor. You can make it an E minor 7, or if you're really going to do this right, make it an E minor 9. D dinosaur, E elephant, F sharp, sharp fish, and G for one measure. Third line, third measure, over the word find the joy. E minor 7, D, E, G. Fourth line, first measure, over the A for innocence. E minor 9, D, E, F sharp, G. It's easier to play than it is to write, believe it or not. Next measure, over the half rest, put an E minor 7. And then you have all your D's and G's, and that's just all D's and G's. Easy stuff. Let's go to page 159, second line. You've got your C in the third measure. The fourth measure, over the word B, put a C, add 9. I told you, it's very repetitive. C, D, and E. Third line, first measure, over the whole rest. Go back to plain old C. Second measure, over the half rest. C, add 9, C, D, E. The A minor can just be C and A, or you can make it an A minor 7, which is C, G, A. The E minor can be a 7 or a 9. So you can just play that, or you can play it with a 9. Fourth line, the B minor is D and B, dogs and butterflies, or you can make it a B minor 7. D, A, B. And then the C over the word free, put a C, add 9. Okay. Now, last line of that page, second measure, right where it says 2 coda, which we're not going to yet, but where the D chord is, that's where you want to add your golden harp, if you're going to add one. Add golden harp, and you just want the up and down pattern, and you just want the harp sound. Hear it? And all that's doing is giving you even more motion. So obviously there were some ripples in the water. So that's where you add your golden harp. The D, the G, and the D, fine right where they are. No changes. For the first time, yeah, the first time you ignore the 2 coda sign. First time you just play straight through. Let's go to page 160. Top line, G is good, D is good. The E minor, you can put a 7 on it if you wish. The D is fine. The next line, the E minor, you may put a 7 on it. All your D's and G's are exactly perfect right where they are. When you get to, let's wait here. Line 4, second measure. Line 4, second measure. Right before that D chord, you want to add a string tab, add an 8-foot string tab, and or country harmony. So now, instead of having your duet harmony where you're just adding a note underneath, you're going to add country harmony, which gives you a note on top of as well as underneath. So we're just changing up the harmony to make it a little different. Country harmony. So now if you're setting up presets, you can do that, but you don't have to if you know where your 1-button pushes are. Now these are suggestions. You can actually use these suggestions to arrange your song, put them wherever you feel you want to put those ideas. All right, the D's and the G's on line 4 are all good. Last line, G is good, C is good. last measure. Over the G for the word B, put a C, add 9. C, D, E. What'd you do, Kelly? Line 4, page 160, line 4, right before measure 2. So that when you sing the word sailing, you've got that harmony on top.
On
The
where
last-
did you put that? I'm sorry.
The country harmony?
Well, you did on line 4,
Yeah.
there's strings and the harmony. But
Right.
then what was after that?
That's just add some 8-foot strings and put country harmony, line 4, right before that second measure.
Yeah, and then what did you say after that to do?
After that, we are going down to the last measure of the page, and over the G for the word B, put a C, add 9.
Over the G,
Uh-huh.
last measure. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Then, yep. Then
Got it.
C, chicken, add 9. Yeah, it's a chicken, add 9. Now at the top of the page, top of that last page where we have 2 lines that we're going to play and the rest of them we're going to skip, the top one is a whole rest. On top of that whole rest, put a plain old C, chicken. And the second measure on top of the half rest, put a C, add 9. Those chords just repeat over and over again. They're very subtle. C, C, add 9, C, C, add 9. That's all it's doing. It's creating, it's helping to create that flow. It's actually very restful. This is a very restful song to play. All right, top line of page 161, measure 3. The A minor is fine, but you might want to put a 7 on it. Line 2, the E minor can be an E minor 7 or an E minor 9. D, E, F sharp, G. That is the coolest sounding chord. And then the B minor, D and B, you can add a 7 on it if you wish. The C is a C, add 9. Then you're going to go into the interlude. The interlude has a G chord. It has an E flat major 7. E flat major 7 in it. Now this is on the page that I scanned to most of you. E flat major 7, what's the rule? The letter minus 1. So it is D, dinosaur, and E flat. Then you have an F chord. Then you have a D flat major 7. C and D flat. C and D flat. Then you have a plain old E flat, plain old F, plain old B flat. Then you have a G flat major 7. Now, on your window, it's probably going to say F sharp major 7. Your organ is very smart, but it does not know which one you're actually reading. F sharp major 7 is more common than G flat major 7, but it's the same chord. Then an A flat, then an E flat, then an F, and a G. And then you can go back to either the beginning of the song, or you can go back to the silly sign and just use your pickup notes to get you back.
Could,
Questions?
could you repeat that interlude line one more time with the new chords
Which one on the interlude?
on 161 third line?
161 third line. We're not playing the third line at all.
Oh, where do you put the interlude then? The interlude, you have another.
The interlude is a separate sheet.
Oh, okay. I'll have to get the interlude from you. Okay.
Yeah. The interlude is a complete separate sheet.
Yep. Okay.
And that's where that's where I went to the lower keyboard and played the flute.
Oh, okay.
So the two sheets that I scanned to you, Tom, are you on my list? Do you want to be on my list?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Email me just so I remember to do it, because I do have another class right after this. And then I'll get them to you. No worries. No worries. So the coda. No chords. You're on a C chord. And that's all you're doing. And then you can fade that out. But I've got it written out for you so you know exactly what it is. That interlude, you gotta watch the flats. You've got a lot of flats in there. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful stretch of music. Okay, now that you know where everything's supposed to go, I'm going to play it one more time. And then you can get an idea of, oh, that's where she added country. Oh, that's where she added a string. Now that you've got everything written in, it should make more sense. Okay? And follow the roadmap. Again, I'm not going to go back to the beginning. When I go after the interlude, I'm going to go back to the silly sign, just to keep it a little bit shorter. And then when I get to the two coda, go ahead.
The silly sign that we put in, or that's in the music already?
The one that's already in the music. I'm going to give you the choice. You can go back to that one or the one at the beginning. I'm just going to go back to the one on page 158 just to shorten it up a little bit.
Okay, all right.
But I like to play the whole thing again because it's just a really relaxing song. It really is. And I'm using just... it's called sweet guitar. So any acoustic guitar is going to sound good. Any acoustic guitar is going to sound good. So either your smooth full band, try your smooth pianist, make sure that your drummer does go on. All right, let's give it a try again. Here we go. The whole song. Second page. Lots of fill in. Top of the next page, fill-ins. Interlude. I'm going to go back to the silly sign on the second page. Whenever you're ready, you just go into the coda.
Very nice.
It's a very relaxing song, and you can put in as many of these things as you wish or not. Mr. Kelly, where did you say?
You're right. It is showing no signs of slowing down.
Line. No,
Here, tell me they've never seen anything
the
like
kick
this.
strings in on page 160, line 4.
The border and all of the miles of razor wire not deterring migrants.
No, that's actually a very good question. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to mute you all because we're getting too many microphones. Dottie just asked a very interesting question. The golden harp, is that actually, this piece of hair is driving me crazy. I need a haircut. Is the golden harp actually part of your fill-in? No, it's not. So when you are using that golden harp, and you've got all these things going on, okay? When you do a fill-in, the golden harp stops. Now there's a kind of a golden harp feeling there, but it does not do both. Once I go back to the chord, it's a golden harp. Now, what does that mean for you when you've got all these rests? You get to choose. Do I want to just let my golden harp carry it? Or do I want to let my fill-in carry it? Because it's not going to do both. So interesting. Yeah, good call on that. Yes. Any other questions? It's not a hard song to play. It's a hard song to lay out, obviously, but it's
Dawn,
a pretty
At
song.
the
Yeah.
end of the interlude, where's that go to?
You can either go to the beginning of the song, which is actually what I did originally. That's why you see it says return to beginning of the song. Well, it's not, and then go to the beginning of the song. But you can go to just the silly sign on page 158, but then you can't use the pickup notes that are on the end of my interlude. Then you have to use the pickup notes that are on top of page 158 right before the silly sign.
Okay, so you actually go to the beginning.
Sure, why not? It's a
Yeah,
beautiful
okay.
song. Yeah, then you can play
Okay.
the whole thing again.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Not hard, not a hard song to play, but boy, when you play it, you're just going to feel so chilled out. It's a chill song. It really is. So when they named it the most sensational soft rock song, it is. In my opinion, yeah, it gets my vote for that. I do have fingering for you, although it's not nothing hard at all.
Dawn.
And
Dawn?
next week, yeah.
Yeah, for the easy 10, I would use smooth.
Any of them. Yeah.
Oh.
Try all of them and see which one you like.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then you might also, if you're going to use pianist or guitarist, make sure you put your drums on. Make sure you also, I think I would add some strings to my lower ensemble.
Process migrants and encourage the rest of the
Okay.
world that I've
Put your
worked with.
guitars, keep your guitars still on, because that's going to be in the more, or your pianist. It might either be a piano or a guitar, but you might want to add some strings just so you get a little bit more of the chords, or not. Try them both and see which way you like it better.
Okay.
And they're popular. They've got over 100,000
Thank you.
migrants in New York. They're too busy worried about Greg Abbott
What?
using him problems. He's only sent
Huh?
13,000
Yeah?
migrants. Other 97,000 migrants that have shown up in the city of New York.
Nope, totally different. It's not the Golden Harp and the FX are two completely different things.
Sent the message to the world that we
Two completely different things. Yep. So when you're using the Golden Harp, whenever you use the fill-in, your Golden Harp disappears. You're just getting the fill-in. When you play another chord and take your fill-in off and play another chord, then your Golden Harp goes. So you want to experiment with that a little bit too, because that's, again, you're just learning how your organ functions, and that's what we're trying to do, is get you to push some buttons and just see what happens. Good stuff. Okay, now next week. I don't know this song. Does anybody know Pledging My Love?
Nope.
1954? I do not know. I do not know this, but you know what? It's in the book, so I will look it up, and I'll see if it's doable. If it's country, it should be easy enough to do. So we can do that. And then
Dawn, I got a question when you're done.
yeah.
Back to that interlude. So
Uh-huh.
when we get to the, over there on the last page, we can choose, do we play that interlude either choice? We play it even if we go to the beginning and then start the beginning, but play the interlude first, or we can
Yes.
go to the silly sign,
Yes.
but both places we play the interlude
Play
first.
the interlude first. And when
Okay.
you get to the end of the interlude, then you have a choice. Where do I want to go? Do I want to go all the way back to the beginning and play it again? Or do I want to shorten it up just a little bit and go to the silly sign on page 2 that's already printed there?
Oh, okay.
Yep. So totally up to you.
Okay.
But it's a pretty song. The interlude may need a little bit of practice, because there are a lot of long intervals, and like I said, those flats, there's a lot of flats in there. So your fingers have to kind of get used to playing all that. And there's a little bit of a rhythm to it. So you've got to just play it with the rhythm so that it doesn't sound, you don't want it to sound choppy. You want it to sound like it's riding the waves.
Okay, and if I don't play the interlude, well, then I just go to the beginning and play
Exactly.
it. Okay.
Exactly correct. If you skip the interlude because it's a little hard, just go back to the beginning of the song, play it again. Yep.
Yeah. I like those choices.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. And it kind of depends on how you're feeling that day too. So that's what makes it cool as well.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think you'll like that, Pledging My Love, Dawn. That's an
Okay.
that's an Elvis song.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, I will absolutely look it up. I'm totally unfamiliar with it. And maybe I do know it and it's just, out of, don't know it. Don't know it by the title, let's put it that way. So yes, I will definitely look it up, and I think we will end up doing it. Cool, very cool. All right, for those of you who don't need fingering, thank you so much for coming today. It's always my pleasure to teach this class. And I will see you next week. Some of you, I will see you in some of the other classes as well. For those of you who need fingering, get out your pencils. Here we go. F sharp 2, F sharp 2, G3, F sharp 2, G3, F sharp 2, G3, D1, 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 G3, F sharp 2, A4, G3. 5 more pages to go, guys. D1, D1, E2, G3, A4, 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 G3, A4, G3, B5, G3, A4, 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 G3, B5, check mark, D5, C4, 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 B3. Next line, B3, A2, G1. A2, 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 G1, B3. G1, turn the page. A2, B3. High D5 at the end of the line, C4. Second line, B3, B3, A2, G1, A2, G1, G1. Check mark. D1, A4, B5, G3, D1. A4. Third line, D1, E2, G3, A4, 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 G3. Yes.
I'm sorry, I got lost.
Oh, where do you need to go back to, David?
I think we're on page 160, yeah?
No, we're on page 158.
Well, that's why I'm lost.
That's why you're lost. Okay.
I'm on a car, sorry.
Oh, okay. You're not taking fingering and driving the car, are you?
Oh, of course, I'm only going 70.
That's, yeah.
No, I'm not driving.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to page 158 for Mr. David. He turned too many pages. A2, B3. We're on the top line. The end of line 1, D5, C4. Okay. No, I'm not going to exit. Second line, B3, B3. A2, G1. A2, G1, G1. Check mark. Low D1. A4, B5, G3, low D1, A4. Third line, D1, E2, G3, A4, 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 G3, A4, G3, B5. Low D1. Next line, A4, 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 G3, B5. Check mark. D5, C4, 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 B3, B3, A2, G1. Next line, A2, 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 G1, B3, low D1, A4, B5. Next page, top line, third measure, D5, 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 C4, B3. Second line, D5, 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 C4, B3, A2, A2, B3, G1, G1. Third line, G2, G2. So if you needed to put a check mark, you could, but you got all those rests in there. A3, 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 B4, G2, A3, B4, E1, E1. Fourth line, D5, 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 B3, G can either be 2 or 1, whichever plops there first. Let's go to the last line, A2, B3, 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 A2, G1, A2, B3, B3. Now we can go to page 160. B3, A2, A2, B3. Second line, B3, 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 A2, G1, A2, G1, G1, B3, 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 A2, G1, A2, G1, G1, B3, G1, A2, A2, B3. Next line, D5, 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 C4, B3, D5, 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 C4, B3, A2, A2, B3, G1, G1. Let's go to the top of page 161 and we're almost done. G2, G2, A3, 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 B4, G2, A3, B4, E1, E1, D5, 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 B3, G1. Okay, that's it. And you are on your own for the interlude. I did not do fingering on that. It's not that hard. It's pretty much just follow. There's no crossing over. You just follow as best you can, and you'll be fine on that. You guys are the bestest. Thank you so much. It was a very enjoyable song today. It's always fun
Thank
to
you,
teach this
Dawn.
class.
Thank you very much.
Any questions before we go?
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. Have
Thanks,
a
Dawn.
great
Thank you, Dawn.
weekend.
Weekend.
Thank you. Enjoy your weekend, yes.